Maryland congressional delegation got a surprise during an unannounced visit to an ICE detention facility in Baltimore. Senator Chris Van Hollen says lawmakers went to inspect the site after a whistleblower told WUSA 9 that cells were dangerously overcrowded. But when they arrived, there were no detainees inside. Meanwhile, Governor Wes Moore says the state is taking legal action over a new ICE detention facility planned near Hagerstown.
Well, this morning, neighbors in Montgomery County will have the chance to weigh in on a bill meant to crack down on price fixing, but that's not what we're talking about. Mr. Glenn Ivey is here now to talk about the story that we just read about. You know what? You know how it is, gremlins in the system. So we're going to reboot and refocus on this visit that you guys made to this facility. You got a tip that something was going on in there that wasn't supposed to be happening. So tell us, we've heard what happened when you went there. There was no one in there. So recap that story for us.
Sure, I'm happy to do it, and thanks for having me on. But yeah, we'd seen video, for example, of the overcrowded conditions in their detention center there, and we'd seen affidavits that have been presented in court. And there had been a court ruling just last week that said the conditions are horrific there, and that's what we saw. So even though they cleared everybody out, I guess they knew we were coming. You could still tell that this was not an appropriate way to be detaining people, especially in the numbers that they had been holding. You had concrete floors, and one room there was, I think, for 70 people. No chairs. They had benches that were, I think, also concrete, if I recall correctly. One toilet for everybody in the room, and it wasn't even walled off. And next to the toilet was the sink. So, you know, if you had people everybody's trying to brush their teeth in the morning and somebody's having a bowel movement, you got to be right there next to the guy that's doing that. Certainly not the type of healthy conditions that we think you need to have in a humane environment. And also, the court said, you know, you can only have 55 in there as a total number. But when we added up what they thought were the capacities for those rooms that they had, they were over 225. So that's 4 times more than what the court thought was humane scenario. So I'm glad we went. We had a chance to see firsthand what the conditions are like. I got to tell you, you know, I've seen animal shelters that are better than what I saw there yesterday. So I really appreciate the court stepping in, and I think the Trump administration really has to correct these policies. You know, these mass incarceration efforts, essentially, that they're doing with the roving patrols and just grabbing people off the streets based on racial profiling, needs to stop. Focus on the most violent offenders like he said he would. Let's go get those guys off the streets and deported. Let's leave the other folks alone.
So what happens now, Congressman? What kind of oversight, what kind of follow-up? What are we really pushing for here?
Well, we're going to have to keep pushing to continue to get the information about that detention facility, for example. So I want to follow up and get head count numbers, for example, of everybody who was there, say, the day and 2 days before we got there, because I know it wasn't zero. Secondly, we want to make sure they don't keep expanding these facilities. The governor's action that you just mentioned a minute ago is aimed at that. And if they really are at zero in the facility we visited yesterday, they certainly don't need to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars to build more facilities. And then lastly, we've got the facility that they've been talking about opening up in Hyattsville. At least they're trying to keep that under the radar screen. But we had that rally 2 weeks ago to make it clear that we know that what they're trying to do, and we're opposing it and fighting that. And then Congress at the national level, we're still fighting over that appropriations bill. That doesn't directly go to this issue, but it does go to ICE on the streets. Judicial warrants before you go into people's houses, body cameras, no masks, identifiable information on your outer garments and the like.
All right. Sorry, we had a little bit of a rocky start, but I think that we got the message there, and we will wait and see. Come back and visit us if there is any movement in any of these topics that we talked about, including that new development that the governor is standing firmly against. Congressman Glenn Ivey, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you.